Hello guys, and welcome back to Research Reality and the second video in our Revolution Review series. If you missed the first one, I'll link it down below, but we're essentially moving down the wall, going album by album, reviewing the lyrics to see how they pertain to the channel thesis, that thesis being, embedded within our creative culture is an undercurrent of unified resistance. In the first video, we talked about the first album from Rage Against the Machine, and now we're moving on to the second album, Evil Empire. There, right there. And starting off with the first track, People of the Sun. As the title might suggest, this song has a lot of details about various ancient civilizations like the Mayans and Aztecs, adding historical context along the way. Like, for example, how various indigenous cultures were overtaken by the Spanish conquistadors, while also drawing parallels to modern times. And speaking of historical context, the song starts off with the line, "Since 1516. I really gotta say, I love that opening. What other song starts off that hard, in that way? Like, what you got on 1516? What other song does that? We're about to find out. So, since 1516, Mayans attacked and overseen, crawling among the ruins of this empty dream, with their borders and boots on top of us, pulling knobs on the floor of this toxic metropolis. So already it kind of paints the picture of invasion, being overtaken, overseen, and Metropolis is actually a movie from the early 1900s that showed the working poor kind of like living underground, pulling knobs and levers to maintain the city for the rich elite that live in the city. It also mentions the last Aztec emperor by name, saying that his spirit is alive and untamed. And the second verse talks about a number of things, from working on tobacco plantations to the Zoot Suit riots. There's also the line, "Check the photo lens, now the city of Los Angeles does the ethnic cleanse." That's cold. Track 2, coming in as one of their most popular songs, "Bulls on Parade." This song does a decent job of explaining the problem with the military-industrial complex, where politicians and those in power sort of virtue signal for things like family values and a strong middle class, but their actions only serve to maintain their power. Also, if you don't know what the military-industrial complex is, it was coined by President Eisenhower during his farewell address. And it's basically the connection between corporations, the government, and the military, where those corporate donors lobby Congress to then pass a higher military budget that then, of course, goes to the military, and then they have to buy weapons from those weapons manufacturers, who then give more money to Congress, who then inflates the budget, who then buys more product. And it's just this self-reinforcing thing, and it's really hard to uproot because if you cut the budget, then you're also cutting jobs because, you know, there's people that make the tanks, they make the body armor, they make the planes, and of course the politicians are not going to give up that sweet campaign contribution. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. There is a lot more nuance, so that's just kind of the general gist. Probably should have named the channel General Gist instead. Probably wouldn't take myself so seriously, but here we are. Jesus! Anyways, back to the song. So a little bit down into the first verse, you have terror reigns drenching, quenching the thirst of the power dawns, that five-sided fistagon, which is referencing the Pentagon with its 5 sides, just like a bit of wordplay with the fist. That rotten sore on the face of Mother Earth gets bigger. Again, talking about the Pentagon and the ever-expanding defense industry. But the song really kicks off in the second verse, which honestly, I'm just going to read in its entirety because it's so good. Weapons, not food, not homes, not shoes, not need, just feed the war cannibal animal. I walk the corner towards the rubble that used to be a library, line up to the mine cemetery. What we don't know keeps the contracts alive and moving. They don't gotta burn the books, they just remove them. While arms warehouses fill as quick as a cell. Rally round the family, pocket full of shells. Again, showcasing how we have all this taxpayer money allocated to the military and everything that entails. But we could be allocating that money to improve the lives of everyday people. Not saying it isn't a huge plus to have the strongest military on the face of the earth, but hey, I mean, As the Pentagon will tell you every time they do one of their audits, they can't even keep track of the billions and or trillions of dollars. So yeah, that money could probably be used for anything else, really. The song closes with the line, "Bulls on Parade." The bull here is in reference to the stock market. When the stock market's going up, it's a bull market. And when it's in decline, it's called a bear market. That's also why there's the Wall Street Bull, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, tune in next time for another general gist. It's just drawing another connection between the stock market / economy and the military-industrial complex. Track 3, Vietnam. Hey, turn on the radio. No, wait, actually, no, turn that off. Because fear is your only god on the radio. This song is more about propaganda disguised as a radio broadcast and the issues that arise from said broadcast. As opposed to informing you, the radio can deploy fear as a method of getting a rise out of people. Going to the lyrics, while the paranoid try to stuff the void, let's capture this AM mayhem, referencing the 24-hour news cycle, which has only gotten worse with social media. It also briefly references Oliver North and the Iran-Contra scandal, which honestly, that's a whole topic that we don't have time to dive into now. But as funny as it sounds, Family Guy did an excellent overview of what happened there, so I'll link that clip down below if you're interested. Can't believe I just cited a Family Guy skit in a Rage Against the Machine review, but hey, here we are. Jesus! Moving on to the lyrics in the second verse, hitting the AM playlist, paid to say this, that one's inhuman, illegal, single, woman. Just going through all the different labels you might put on someone. The ones without the movement, the transmissions whipping our backs, coming down like the bats from Stacey Koon. So yeah, the ones who typically don't have political capital or a strong movement are easily marginalized or demonized by the media. And that last line, Stacey Koon, was actually a cop involved in the Rodney King beating. And another line about controlling people with fear, the sheep tremble and here come the votes, thrown from the throat, cages and scapegoats, which is all the more relevant today. So the next track, Revolver, details the abusive relationship where a woman is a victim of domestic violence. And knowing that there's more to life than just this, referencing fields without fences and a spotless domain, she takes matters into her own hands using a firearm, asking the question, "Hey Revolver, don't mothers make good fathers?" Not really a strong political take, but I still wanted to mention it just for the message, really. Shout out to all the survivors of domestic violence, because that shit is awful. Track 5, Snake Chamber, details the flight of a 26-year-old who is trying to make it to America, calling the American dream empty. A selfish, horrific vision. Forget about your ideals, just sleep, wake, and serve. For track 6, Tire Me, the best read I have is that the system is trying to tire you out, keeping you down so that you don't really have the mental capacity to keep up with what's going on around you. In the grander scheme of things. I think Tupac talked about this in his interview that Kendrick Lamar used at the end of To Pimp a Butterfly, where you really only have until the ages of like 25 or 26 before the system deprives you of all your energy, or something to that effect. Going back to the lyrics, and those colorful words for the Laos frontiersman who passed away from the truth amidst the eulogies of bliss, who will know now what I know about you, now that history is a flowery, cancerous mess. This is allegedly about the passing of Richard Nixon, who illegally bombed Laos and Cambodia during the Vietnam War, along with Henry Kissinger, who, oh boy, could do like a 9-part series on him. Track 7, Down Rodeo. This song revolves around racism, segregation, among other things, but it goes hard. So hard. I'm rolling down Rodeo with a shotgun. These people ain't seen a brown-skinned man since their grandparents bought one. Also talks about poverty, being locked without a wage, staring at an empty plate. Goes on to say that bosses rode south for new flesh in a factory floor. The remains left chained to the powder ward. So my best take on this is that it's referencing NAFTA, or the North America Free Trade Agreement, which came out during the Clinton administration, and it's basically just a trade agreement between Canada, the United States, and Mexico, which also sent a lot of jobs to Mexico to exploit the cheap labor. And it's also maybe tied to the drug war with them referencing cocaine there at the end. Not super sure on that one. I couldn't find a genuine source to kind of back that up. But if you have any information on that, please leave it in the comments below. And I'll be sure to check it out. And the chorus here hits pretty hard. Can't waste a day when the night brings a hearse. So make a move and plead the fifth because you can't plead the first. Also that they ain't gonna send us camping like they did my man Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton being a prominent member of the Black Panther Party. 1,000 years they had the tools, we should be taking them. Fuck the G-Ride, I want the machines that are making them. Basically saying who cares if you have a nice car or a nice anything if you don't have the means to make it yourself. So this gets into the whole Marxist socialist ideology and the conversation there within by seizing the means of production, which I'm not endorsing here, but to briefly explain it, you know, you go to work and you use the equipment there provided from your work, but you don't own any of the equipment, because if you did, you would probably have a stronger stake in the company, owning the company to some degree, instead of just being used exclusively for the labor, and those profits going up the chain to those who have the capital. So again, for simplicity's sake, we're not endorsing anything, we're just kind of showing what the lyrics are saying as they are presented. Track 8, Without a Face, details the life of an immigrant, having no soul, no control, and your only motive is to survive, likening a simple walk down the sidewalk to walking on a tightrope. Talks about sending money back across the border to their family, the money traveling back under barbed wire. I try to look back at my past long lost, a blood donor to the landowner holocaust. Strong words. Also talking about the farmland, maize or corn was all we needed to sustain. Now her golden skin burns. Insecticide rain. So John Oliver on his show Last Week Tonight actually did a really good deep dive on immigrant labor, where it showed all these guys working in the field in the blistering heat, and literally they're spraying the insecticide and it's cooling them off. But it was just a trip that the relief that they were experiencing is, of course, insecticide. Like, what the fuck? Like, sure, it gave you relief from the heat, but like, you're still getting rained on by insecticide. And those conditions are obviously horrendous. Track 9, Wind Below, talking more about resisting NAFTA and the IMF, or the International Monetary Fund. Again, suggesting that powerful nations use both rhetoric and policy to exploit the poor of other countries. All the shareholders gonna flex and try to annex the truth, while the new trust tries to flex and cast their image in you. It mentions how GE is gonna flex and annex the truth. NBC is gonna flex and cast their image in you. Disney bought the fantasies in the piles of eyes. And ABC's new thrill rides of trials and lies. Yeah. Track 10, Roll Right, invokes a lot of fighting imagery with the fists hitting like bombs and the vapors catching fire in your mind. It mentions Ralph Ellison, who wrote the book Invisible Man. It also kind of touches on Israeli settlements and fighting back against occupation, of a few varieties really. Mainline adrenaline, Gaza to Tiananmen. For their lives and our lives were never settled. Again, we don't condone violence here on the channel, but hey, it just seems kind of obvious that you shouldn't build your home on other people's land, especially when you are forcefully removing them and or killing them for said land. Seems pretty straightforward. Which brings us to the final track, Year of the Boomerang. Playing off the line from the first track, It's Coming Back Around Again. It references the Haitian Revolution, which was a successful slave revolt in the early 1800s, bucking off the French occupation. Going to the lyrics here, cast me in classes for electric shock, straight incarcerated, the curriculum's a cell block, talks about swimming in half-truths, and it goes on from there to talk about doctrines and dogma, being enslaved to the classroom, which was also a prominent theme on their previous album. In the last 5 centuries of penitentiary, again referencing slavery, which lasted about 500 years. And the song ends with the line, now it's upon you. You. Now that you know all this, it's up to you to do something. And hey, that concludes the review of the Rage Against the Machine album, Evil Empire. Again, if you guys have a better read on any of these songs, or you think I got something wrong, or something that I maybe missed, feel free to leave that in the comments below. I would love to check that out. If you guys like this video, feel free to hit the like button, and of course, if you want to see more videos like this in the future, hit the subscribe button. If you want to see some more exclusive videos, I do have my Patreon account up and running. Also leave a comment for what artist you want to see me review next, and we'll take it from there. Jesus! Alright guys, thank you again so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Later. Jesus!